The question,
The question is, the money that they were supposed to be receiving was supposed to be covered by the surplus of money that was left. So now that money is completely gone, and now people are claiming this would be a tax raise on them. It isn't a tax raise. It's taking away what was a surplus and is now gone, so it's going back to the way it was before. It's not a tax raise on them.
What's that? Andy has a blank look, caller.
Well, I mean, the callers talked a lot about the federal taxing policy. And, you know, I'm not in Congress, and I don't...
Not yet. You never will be. A Chautauqua County boy never will be in Congress. You know that? And thanks to the fact we're part of Buffalo now.
Right. And so the budget that was just adopted on time by the state legislature that I voted on,
well, this is a state issue, too. According to Mr. Cummio, our pseudo-democratic governor, we can't in any way raise taxes on the rich at all because to balance the budget, we have to do it on other people. That's you and me.
Pass it down to the counties,
well,
right?
The budget that I voted on was able to increase funding in critical areas I think were important to Chautauqua County.
Like schools and things like that?
Yeah, we got more money back for schools. We funded a lot of agricultural programs that are very important for Chautauqua County, like the Integrated Pest Management Program and the Wine Grape Foundation and the Apple Growers Association. So we were able to do that without raising taxes. And we were able to do that by focusing on cutting spending in other areas. For example, we put off for a year a proposed increase in welfare benefits. We didn't think that was an appropriate time to increase welfare benefits. We put that off. There are a lot of structural and important changes in Medicaid to try to bring New York State's Medicaid costs more in line with the national average. So we used those savings to get more funding to our schools and to our agricultural program and our economic development programs. And we did it without raising the taxes, and
I think was a more important
approach.
So I better get off and let somebody else on.
Okay, thank you, caller. Send me a self-addressed stamp envelope. I'll give you $5 off over at the Lakeview, which is a beautiful restaurant. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Two restaurants, as a matter of fact. Okay, we're sitting here with Andy Goodell, who's answering questions about the goings-on in Albany, especially in the New York State Assembly. He's been there now for quite a while. How many days?
About 3 months, 4 months, yeah.
3 months, and he's kind of learning the ropes. We have a very active number of people who watch this program, and you can see there's they call in and they have a lot to say.
Absolutely.
Somebody just gave up the ghost. I see they hung up. Whatever. We have a opportunity to talk to Andy, and he's been very gracious to answer any questions that come up. The questions about teacher tenure, management, money, there was a decrease in the tax for the wealthy on the state level, was there not?
Well, what happened is 3 years ago, the legislature put a temporary surcharge, an extra tax increase on anyone earning more than $200,000.
Right. Not millionaires, just anybody.
No, they call it a millionaire's tax, but it kicked in at $200,000. And the state legislature said, don't leave New York State, this is only a temporary tax. Well, that tax raised over $4 billion. And people started leaving the state, even though the state legislature promised it was only going to be temporary. That temporary time period expired. There were a number of people in the state legislature that wanted to go back on their word, that wanted to make it a longer time period. And I think it's important when state legislature gives its word that it's a temporary tax, it should be just a temporary tax. That temporary tax, by the way, put New York State's income tax rate in New York City as the highest in the nation.
But you know, the temporary tax, Andy, is an oxymoron.
Yeah,
there is no such thing as a temporary tax.
Well, that's why that's why Governor Cuomo said, we said it was going to be temporary, it should be temporary. And what was really the driving force to honor their word, if you will, and keep it temporary, was that there was a documented flight of major companies out of New York State in response to that tax.
Just two congressmen, that's...
Well, we lost 2 congressmen, yeah. But, for example, there were 30 hedge funds that left New York City and went to Connecticut. And these are very high-paying jobs. They produce a lot of tax revenue, and they left.
There's no question New York State has lost a lot of business. And peoples. I mean, 2 congressmen, how many does that represent? Millions, probably.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you can't have the reputation for having the highest taxes in the nation and expect businessmen to want to move to New York. And so if our focus is to build the economy, if our focus is to create more jobs, if our focus is to strengthen New York State, you can't do it by driving everybody away. And you have to be business competitive. And that's what this budget attempted to do. Honor the word that the legislature gave that that tax rate was only temporary. Move to make New York State more business competitive so that we can build the economy. And when we build the economy, we can build the number of people that can be here. It helps the housing market. It helps produce more revenue for our schools and everything else. So you got to really focus on the foundation, and the foundation is the private sector job growth, and that's critical.
It's time for the message. Senior citizens who, the Congress doesn't have any trouble going back on their pledge, an annual COLA for senior citizens on Social Security. 3 years in a row they've gone back on that, and senior citizens are about to start eating this stuff. During the Great Depression, the seniors ate cat food because it was nutritious. It was barely edible, but it did taste okay. It was very cheap. And they also are going to wind up living in the cellar of their children because they're losing their homes. If you look in the paper, you see the sales going up for tax sales. Huge numbers of seniors.
By the way, I'm also sponsoring or co-sponsoring a bill that would give a tax break to kids that make their house available for their parents, because I think it's important to encourage that extended family and help the extended family. But that's a tax break that would help out kids that are helping their parents.
Well, okay, Andy, anything that would help the seniors directly or indirectly would certainly be a great benefit at this point. Apparently, our federal government has just said, screw the seniors, we're not going to give them anything.
Yeah, that's not the right approach.
Yeah, because 3 years in a row they haven't got a COLA. How do they buy bread? And incidentally, you mentioned the fact no increase for welfare. Well, this is a very, very tough economic period when people are on unemployment, trying to find a job, cannot find a job, and the final ditch is welfare. And if they don't get an increase there, they're in the same boat as the seniors. Well, how are they going to buy their food?
Yeah, though the problem that we had in the last 2 years is that welfare benefits in New York State, in the last 2 years alone, went up 20%.
Which about is what inflation has been, although the Congress kids is long. There's no inflation, seniors.
Well, the problem that I had with that is that here you weren't giving seniors any cost of living increase. Seniors weren't getting a cost of living increase, but we increased welfare benefits by 20%. And of course, when you increase welfare benefits by 20%, a portion of that welfare cost is paid out of your property taxes. So the property taxes on seniors were going up to give those who weren't working a 20% increase in benefits, while those who were paying the higher property tax, our seniors, were getting no cost of living increase. It didn't make sense. So this year we froze the welfare increase, and I'm working, as I mentioned, to try to reduce the cost of seniors who are staying in their houses, and obviously mandate relief is an important part of that.
Okay. Andy Goodell telling it as it is in the New York State Assembly and on the state level. We do have a number of problems which he has recognized. One is we have a huge exodus of business and citizens from New York State, and secondly, the mandates are still in effect, many of them, which are unfunded mandates, meaning that the state says you have to do this and we're not going to pay for it. It's easy enough to pass a law as long as they don't have to pay for it. If they had to pay for it, they'd be a little more careful about these mandates. Well, so we've been saddled with huge mandates, all kinds of regulations. They're up our
right.
with these mandates, and of course the taxes are not paying for our actual budget, so they're trying to reduce taxes. Pretty darn hard job to do. And thirdly, there's a lot of criticism because of the fact that the wealthy are not paying their fair share of taxes, as they would say. Now we have time for one more phone call, and you want to take it or you want to finish up? Okay, good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Good morning. I want to comment comment on Mr. Goodell's hair. I look at the pictures of him in the assembly, and I see he looks just like the George Washington there.
He does have a powdered wig, I've noticed, yeah.
Yeah, it's, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, caller.
I think.
And Madam, thanks for your observation. Yeah, well, you know, you get all kinds of calls.
Yeah.
They like your hair.
Well, I'm glad it is. It is all natural. I don't dye it white.
It's not a powdered wig.
It's not a powdered wig.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you, caller. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And Reed, you know, we're wrestling with a lot of issues. You pointed to a lot of them. The first step, which I think has been successful, is for the state to cut back on its spending and its taxes. The next step, which I think is going to be very difficult but extremely important, is to work to cut the unfunded mandates and to provide more authority to our local school boards and our local municipalities so they have more control and more flexibility, and so that we can bring the cost structure that our residents are paying here more in line with the national average. If we can bring our tax structure in line with the national average and become more business competitive, then we'll see the job growth, we'll see the prosperity returning to this area, and ultimately, that's our mission, is to strengthen our county.
It's a long road to hoe, as we say up here.
And a lot of tough decisions.
A lot of tough decisions. Andy telling it like it is. Andy Goodell is our new assemblyman, and if they wanted to get in touch with you to discuss these matters, what number would they use? Do you have a number?
Yeah, locally the number is 664-7773, and that's my Jamestown number, 664-7773. And we very much appreciate and look forward to comments and input.
Good. Well, that's the name of the game. As you start out in the state legislature, what would you say is the very first priority right now? You said we've got a lot of things we've got to do. What would be the top priority?
I say that
as a final word.
The top priority is bringing our costs in line, cutting the size and cost of government, cutting our taxes so that people can afford to live here.
Those are three priorities.
Well, they're all related.
They're kind of related.
But really, the top priority would be cutting taxes across the board, local, state, regional, and in order to do that, you have to cut the cost of expenses.
We're out of here. Close off. You got 30 seconds, uninterrupted.
Thanks for inviting me, Reed.
Go ahead.
I appreciate being here, and a lot of tough choices, but I think we've got a lot of very capable people on the local level, and I'm very pleased to be working with Senator Young and Assemblyman Giglio on the state level, and we're working hard to put your interests first.
Thank you very much, Andy Goodell. Senator Young, Kathy Young, will be here next week, and she'll be able to tell us what's going on in the Senate. It's probably the same, except she doesn't have to hunt for an office. She's been there a while. I want to thank all those beautiful people that called in, and I'm sorry, last caller, we didn't get you, but we'll catch you next time. You come back soon?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just very refreshing to have you on and to talk about these things. And so some of these people put you on the spot, but you handle it very well, I thought.
Well, I'm just trying to do the best I can.
Got a big thank you to Chuck Kelsey, Devin Taylor, to Chris Burt, Chris Ramaker, Randy Burt, Roy, Harvey, Don Zenz, and John, the least, Doc Hamels. May everybody out there have a beautiful day. Think in terms of your flower beds. They're coming up. The crocuses are out, and next thing you know, the daffs will be all over the place. May all that is proud and true and noble abide with you. I'm Reed Powers.